Ben Sewald killed Jessa. Ben Sewald married his new GF. Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. For Duggar family latest news update, please subscribe the channel and press the bell icon. The Duggar family, once known for their wholesome image and their oversized household in 19 kids and counting, had weathered storms before. But nothing prepared them, or the public, for the tragedy that unfolded with Jessa Duggar Sewald and her husband, Ben. This story begins like any other with small fractures in a marriage, but it ends in devastation, scandal, and the shattering of trust. The Seewald's downfall would become one of the darkest chapters in Duggar family history, cracks in the marriage. For years, Jessa and Ben presented a united front. Their marriage was portrayed as calm, godly, and filled with laughter. On Instagram, Jessa posted carefully edited reels of her children playing, family outings, and sweet captions about her husband, but behind closed doors, the Seewalds were struggling. Ben, now in his early 30s, felt trapped. He had married young, just 19, into one of America's most conservative families. Though he loved his children deeply, he resented the scrutiny and the Duggar expectations that clung to his identity. Jessa, on the other hand, remained rooted in her Duggar upbringing. She had grown up as one of Jim, Bob, and Michelle's most disciplined daughters, always ready with a smile and gentle words. But after years of managing a growing household, dealing with financial stress and the emotional baggage of her family's controversies, she too was stretched thin. Their arguments began small: money, chores, the pressures of raising 5 kids. But by 2024, friends noticed that Jessa's smile rarely reached her eyes. She seemed exhausted, a family insider recalled. Like she was holding everything together by a thread. Ben's secret affair. Around this time, Ben began confiding in a woman he had met through a local church event. Her name was Emily. She was younger than Jessa, vibrant, and not weighed down by the Duggar family's complicated legacy. What started as friendship soon turned into emotional intimacy. Ben told Emily about his struggles, his unhappiness, and his desire for a life outside the Duggar spotlight. Emily listened, offering sympathy and admiration, the very things he felt he no longer received at home. By late 2024, their relationship had turned physical. Ben lived a double life. At home, he played the role of dutiful father and husband, while in secret, he pursued a love affair that gave him the sense of freedom he craved. Jessa, preoccupied with her children and household duties, noticed changes but struggled to accept the possibility of betrayal. Still, whispers reached her. One of the church members hinted about seeing Ben and Emily together late at night. When Jessa confronted him, Ben denied it. But the seed of suspicion had been planted. The breaking point: on a rainy evening in early 2025, the truth exploded. Jessa discovered text messages between Ben and Emily, filled with words of passion and longing. Her world collapsed in an instant. Years of loyalty, love, and sacrifice crumbled beneath the weight of betrayal. She confronted Ben in their kitchen, her voice trembling. "How could you do this? To me? To our kids?" Ben, cornered, lashed out. "You don't understand. I'm suffocating in this marriage. I never wanted this life. You only care about your image, about the Duggar name." The argument spiraled into chaos. Children huddled upstairs, listening to the raised voices. Hours later, the shouting turned into silence. The next morning, neighbors noticed police cars outside the Sewald home. The tragedy. According to official reports, Jessa was found unresponsive in the living room. She had suffered fatal injuries after what authorities described as a domestic altercation turned violent. Ben was arrested at the scene. The news sent shockwaves through Arkansas, then across the nation. Headlines blared: Ben Sewald arrested in wife's death. Duggar family silent. Reality star Jessa Duggar Sewald dead at 32. From courtship to catastrophe. The Sewald tragedy. The Duggar family, already accustomed to scandal due to Josh Duggar's imprisonment, now faced an unbearable blow. Michelle was reportedly inconsolable, sobbing to friends, "Not my Jessa, not my sweet girl." Jim, Bob, always the stoic patriarch, issued a carefully worded statement asking for prayers and privacy. But behind closed doors, the family was shattered. the trial of Ben Sewald. Within weeks, Ben was formally charged with second-degree murder. Prosecutors alleged that he had snapped during an argument and fatally struck his wife. Courtrooms were packed with reporters, Duggar fans, and critics alike. Each day brought new revelations: text messages between Ben and Emily, witnesses testifying about the couple's rocky marriage, and evidence painting a picture of a man torn between duty and desire. Emily herself was called to testify. Tearfully, she admitted the affair but claimed she never imagined things would end this way. The jury deliberated for days. When the verdict finally came, the room was silent. Guilty, Ben was sentenced to 35 years in prison. Fallout and family division. The aftermath tore the Duggar family apart. Some members, like Jana and Jinger, were openly furious with Ben, calling him a coward and a murderer. Others, more conservative siblings, whispered that Jessa had failed in her role as a wife, echoing toxic teachings from their upbringing that placed blame on women in troubled marriages. The children were placed under the care of family members, with Jill and Derek stepping up to provide stability. For Jessa's kids, the trauma was unspeakable. The loss of their mother and the imprisonment of their father within days of each other. Public sympathy poured in. Strangers left flowers outside the Duggar home. Online, fans posted tributes to Jessa, remembering her as the strong, witty girl who had grown up before their eyes. But criticism also raged. Many questioned the Duggar teachings on marriage and submission, arguing that the culture of silence and pressure contributed to the tragedy. Ben's new marriage, shockingly, less than a year after his conviction, tabloids revealed that Ben had spiritually married Emily in a prison ceremony. The news was met with outrage. For the Duggars, it was the final insult. To marry the woman who had been at the center of his betrayal so soon after Jessa's death was unthinkable, disgusting, Jill wrote in a private message that later leaked. Jessa's memory deserves better than this circus. Emily defended her decision, telling reporters, "I love Ben. We're both flawed, but our love is real. Jessa's death was a tragedy, but I believe God can redeem any story." Her words only deepened the public's anger. Legacy of Jessa Duggar. Though Jessa's life ended in tragedy, her memory lived on through her children, siblings, and the millions who had followed her journey since childhood. Documentaries were produced. Books were written. Commentators debated the lessons to be learned, from the dangers of toxic teachings to the warning signs of domestic violence. In the end, Jessa became more than a reality TV star. She became a symbol of resilience, of the hidden pain behind curated social media lives, and of the urgent need to break cycles of silence. Congratulations, Jill Duggar gives birth to twins amid serious health scar. The Duggar family had always been no stranger to the spotlight. From the years of their reality TV show, their strict family values, and the inevitable controversies that followed them, they had become a household name. But behind the flashing cameras and constant chatter of media speculation, they were still a family, real people with real emotions, victories, and tragedies. This story begins with Jill Duggar Dillard, the once wide-eyed, soft-spoken Duggar daughter who had grown into a strong, independent woman. Married to Derek Dillard and raising their children outside of the strictest shadows of Duggar traditions, Jill had always walked a delicate line between staying true to her convictions and seeking her own identity. Now, in the late summer of 2025, Jill's life was about to take yet another dramatic turn, a pregnancy full of hope and worry. Jill had announced her pregnancy quietly, without the fanfare her family was known for. She and Derek had chosen to share the news only after she had passed the first trimester. At their 12-week ultrasound, however, they had received a shock. She was carrying twins. Jill had gasped and grabbed Derek's hand tightly as the doctor smiled and pointed at the screen. "There are 2 heartbeats," the doctor had said, his voice calm but tinged with caution. "Twins." Derek, his eyes wide, leaned closer to the monitor, his face lighting up with joy and fear at the same time. 2, oh wow, Jill, can you believe it? Tears had spilled down Jill's cheeks. She had always dreamed of a big family, but after years of complicated pregnancies, difficult births, and strained health, twins felt both like a miracle and a risk, because that was the other side of the coin. Jill's medical history was not simple. She had already endured hemorrhages during past deliveries, long hospital stays, and the painful reality of being categorized as a high-risk pregnancy. Now, with twins, the risks multiplied. Family reactions. When Jill shared the news with her siblings and parents, the responses varied. Michelle, her mother, had gasped and hugged her tightly. "Oh, Jill, 2 more blessings from the Lord. But sweetheart, you must take care of yourself. I'll be praying every day for your safety." Jim Bob, trying to balance joy with fatherly concern, had placed a hand on Derek's shoulder. "This is wonderful news, son. But you must watch over her carefully. Twins are a great responsibility." Her sisters, Jessa, Jinger, Jana, had each reacted in their own way. Jessa squealed and immediately began talking about matching outfits. Jinger, now living in California, called in tears and promised to fly out as soon as she could. Jana, ever the quiet caretaker, simply smiled and told Jill she would be there whenever needed, but underneath the excitement, worry simmered. Everyone knew Jill's health was fragile, and the thought of her enduring the strain of carrying and delivering twins was frightening. Trouble on the horizon. By the time Jill reached her 7th month, complications had already set in. Swelling in her legs, severe headaches, and dangerously high blood pressure began to plague her daily. Doctors warned her about preeclampsia, a condition that could put both her life and the baby's lives at risk. One afternoon, while folding laundry, Jill felt a sharp pain shoot across her abdomen. She clutched the edge of the couch, calling out for Derek, her voice trembling. Derek rushed in from the other room, panic in his eyes. "What's wrong?" "Jill, I don't know, it hurts," she gasped. Without hesitation, he grabbed the hospital bag they had prepared weeks earlier and helped her into the car. As they sped down the road to the hospital, Jill prayed silently, tears streaking her face. She knew things were happening too soon. The babies weren't due yet. The emergency. At the hospital, the atmosphere was tense. Doctors rushed Jill into a room, attaching monitors to track the twins' heartbeats. One doctor frowned as he read the results. "The babies are in distress," he said gravely. "We can't wait. We need to perform an emergency C-section now." Derek's knees nearly buckled at the words. He gripped Jill's hand tightly, pressing his forehead against hers. "I'm right here. I love you. You're going to be okay. Our babies are going to be okay." The surgical team wheeled Jill into the operating room, the bright lights glaring above her as fear clawed at her chest. She whispered a prayer, repeating it like a mantra. "Lord, please keep us safe." Birth amid chaos. The operating room was a blur of voices, machines, and urgency. Jill could hear the beeping of monitors, the clipped commands of the doctors, and her own rapid breathing. Then, suddenly, the first cry pierced the air. A tiny, fragile wail. "Baby A is out," a nurse announced. Tears streamed down Jill's face. She couldn't see, but she could hear the miracle. Moments later, another cry followed. Baby B had arrived. "They're small, but they're breathing," the doctor said, relief softening his voice. Jill tried to lift her head, desperate to glimpse her babies, but her body felt weak, her vision blurring. She had lost a lot of blood during the surgery. Nurses worked frantically to stabilize her. Derek, standing close, caught his first glimpse of their sons, 2 tiny, red-faced infants bundled quickly and taken to the NICU for support. His heart swelled with love, but dread gnawed at him as he turned back to Jill. Her face was pale, her eyelids heavy. "Stay with me, Jill," he whispered desperately, tears dripping onto her hand. "Please don't leave me. The boys need you. I need you." The long night. For hours after the surgery, Jill's condition remained critical. Doctors worked tirelessly to control the bleeding and stabilize her blood pressure. Derek sat by her bedside, clutching her hand, praying silently. Meanwhile, the Duggar family began to gather at the hospital. Michelle and Jim Bob arrived first, their faces etched with worry. Jessa came rushing in, followed later by Jana, and even Joanna. The waiting room filled with siblings, in-laws, and even some close family friends. Everyone prayed, cried, and clung to one another. The usually cheerful Duggar clan was subdued, their voices hushed. At one point, Michelle leaned against Jim Bob's shoulder, whispering through tears, "She's my baby, Lord. Please don't take my baby." dawn of hope. BY morning. The doctors emerged with cautious smiles. Jill was stable. She was weak, still in recovery. Derek wept openly, hugging the doctor in relief. When he was finally allowed into her room, he found Jill sleeping peacefully, her face no longer ghostly pale but tinged with color again. When she stirred awake, her first words were faint but full of love. "The babies, are they okay?" Derek smiled through tears. "They're fighters just like you. Small but strong. They're in NICU, but they're holding on." Jill closed her eyes, whispering a prayer of gratitude. Meeting the twins, it was 2 days before Jill was strong enough to be wheeled into the NICU to see her babies. Josh and Anna Duggar's story. The Duggar family, once known for their seemingly wholesome image, had always been surrounded by the shadow of controversy since Josh Duggar's scandals shook the world years ago. But no one in the family could have predicted that Anna Duggar, the quiet, faithful, and long-suffering wife, would one day find herself at the center of a storm that threatened to tear the Duggar legacy apart. This is the heartbreaking, shocking, and unbelievable story of how Anna Duggar was arrested, jailed for 2 years, accused of stealing $1 million, and ultimately divorced by Josh Duggar, a family under pressure. Life after Josh's sentencing was never easy for Anna. With 7 children to raise, limited income, and the crushing weight of public shame, Anna lived each day in survival mode. The Duggar family tried to rally around her, but support came with strings attached. Jim Bob, the patriarch, insisted that Anna and her children remain under his oversight. Michelle offered comfort, but could do little to ease the financial strain. Anna, once hopeful, felt increasingly suffocated by her in-laws' expectations. Bills piled up. Groceries became harder to afford. The children's needs grew with each passing day. Anna prayed constantly, asking for strength, but desperation quietly began to eat away at her, a temptation too strong. Anna found herself managing not only her own meager finances, but also helping out with some of the Duggar family's complex financial records. Jim Bob trusted her with clerical work here and there, never imagining that Anna's mounting desperation might lead her down a dark road. It started small. A few $100s here, a few hundred there. She told herself she would pay it back. She reasoned that Josh had destroyed their life, and she deserved some help, even if no one else was giving it. But soon, those small amounts grew larger. By the time she realized what she had done, Anna had secretly rerouted nearly $1 million from Duggar family accounts into hidden places. For months, no one noticed. The shocking discovery: it was Jana Duggar who first saw something unusual. She had been working on organizing property documents when she noticed large sums missing. At first, she assumed it was an error, but as she dug deeper, the truth began to surface. Jana went to Jim Bob, her voice trembling. "Dad, something isn't right. A lot of money is missing, and it looks like Anna had access to the accounts." Jim Bob refused to believe it. "Anna? No. She's loyal. She's faithful. She would never." But when he confronted her, Anna broke down in tears. "I didn't mean for it to go this far. I was just trying to survive. I had no choice." Jim Bob was stunned. Michelle wept openly, holding her head in her hands. The family was once again thrust into chaos. Arrest and public scandal. The news spread quickly. Local authorities launched an investigation, and before long, Anna Duggar was formally charged with embezzlement and theft. Reporters swarmed the Duggar property. Headlines screamed, "Anna Duggar arrested for $1 million theft. Duggar daughter-in-law facing prison time." Another Duggar family's scandal shocks America. Anna appeared in court, her head bowed, wearing the same modest dresses she had always worn. Her children cried as she was led away in handcuffs. She was sentenced to 2 years in prison. Josh Duggar's reaction. From prison, Josh heard the news. At first, he laughed bitterly. Now she knows what it feels like, he reportedly told a fellow inmate. But soon, bitterness turned to resentment. He felt betrayed, not because Anna had broken the law, but because her scandal meant even more shame attached to the Duggar name. Through letters and phone calls, Josh grew colder toward her. Eventually, he made the decision that stunned everyone. He filed for divorce. Anna, sitting in her prison cell, received the papers with shaking hands. For years, she had stood by him, through his betrayals, his lies, and his crimes. And now, when she was at her lowest, he abandoned her without hesitation. Her cries echoed through the cold prison walls that night. Duggar family in turmoil. The Duggar household erupted in arguments. Some of the siblings sided with Anna, believing she had been pushed too far by years of neglect and lack of support. Others felt she had disgraced the family beyond repair. Jill, already estranged from the family, released a quiet statement. "I have deep compassion for Anna. She was placed in an impossible situation. But this cycle of control and secrecy has hurt too many people for too long." Jessa avoided the press, but reportedly told close friends that she was heartbroken. "Anna was like a sister to me. I can't believe this happened." Joanna admitted privately that she feared the family's reputation was permanently ruined. And Jim Bob? He remained defiant. "We are a godly family. The enemy seeks to destroy us. We will stand firm." But even he knew this was a wound that might never heal. Life in prison, Anna's days behind bars were marked by loneliness and regret. She missed her children terribly. Every letter she received from them was stained with her tears. She tried to keep her faith, leading small Bible study groups among fellow inmates, but at night she lay awake, haunted by the choices she made. Her children were placed under the care of relatives. Some days, Michelle brought them to visit, trying to maintain some sense of normalcy. But Anna knew they were growing up without her. Josh moves on. Josh wasted no time in seeking new relationships, even while behind bars. Rumors swirled of him writing letters to other women, painting himself as a victim betrayed by his wife. When word got back to Anna, she was crushed. After everything, he was already moving on, while she remained trapped. For the first time, she began to question the life she had built. The Duggar family's teachings, the loyalty she had clung to, the sacrifices she had made, had it all been for nothing? A family divided. The scandal caused irreparable cracks in the Duggar dynasty. TLC, which had already distanced itself from the family, publicly stated they would never again work with them. Neighbors whispered. Former friends disappeared. Even church members avoided them. Some Duggar siblings begged their parents to stop controlling every aspect of their lives. Others withdrew into silence. The family's once united front was now shattered. The final blow. 2 years later, as Anna's release approached, she faced an uncertain future. With no husband, no income, and a permanently tarnished reputation, she wondered how she would ever rebuild her life. Her children longed for her return, but Josh made it clear that he wanted nothing to do with her. The divorce was finalized. Anna stepped out of prison gates, clutching a small bag of belongings, her eyes searching for a familiar face. Michelle was there, tears streaming down her cheeks, holding Anna's youngest child. "Welcome home," Michelle whispered, hugging her tightly. But Anna knew she wasn't really home. The world she once knew no longer existed. She was free, but she was broken lessons in the ashes. The Duggar family would never be the same. Once symbols of strict faith and conservative values, they had become a living cautionary tale of hypocrisy, secrecy, and pain. Anna's story of desperation, theft, prison, and betrayal became one more dark chapter in the Duggar saga. And as she began to rebuild her life from the ashes, one thought echoed in her.